Commissioner Dixon has called in and is not able to attend today, and we have Commissioner Mollis on the telephone.
Commissioner Mollis, you're now in the room.
Okay, good morning.
Gina, please call the roll.
Chair Andrews?
Here.
Commissioner Dixon? Absent. Commissioner Mollis?
Present.
Commissioner Strauss?
Here.
Commissioner Wilhoit?
Here. Thank you. We have kind of a tight time schedule today. Commissioner reports, I'll be very short. I've spent a lot of time over the last 6 weeks working on the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and it's kept me pretty busy. Charles, anything for the cause this morning?
Nope, just happy to be better. Happy to be here.
Steve?
Let's get going.
John? Great. Move right on to the Executive Director report. Patrick.
Thank you, Chair Andrews. Good morning, Commissioners. I do have a few things. I'll try and keep the agenda moving forward, but it has been 2 months since our last commission meeting, so I did want to update you on a few things that have happened. Had a number of events and accomplishments since then. The first one, at the beginning of July, our proposed new enterprise zone for East Portland was approved by the state. If you recall, it came through the commission in June. It went to the city council, and I think we felt very confident it was going to get approved, but it actually did happen in July, and so we now have a second enterprise zone in the city of Portland. This one focused on areas from 82nd East, and so we look forward to bringing more business into the city using that really powerful tool. That same week, we hosted a delegation of city leaders from Copenhagen, Denmark. It was interesting to talk with them. They had a lot of questions of us about our sustainability policies, our transportation policies, and in particular how we combine economic development with sustainability. So that was a productive conversation. We kicked off a new entrepreneurship initiative that we refer to as Portland 100. Portland 100 is an initiative to focus on a handful of very promising companies and provide them with the intensive assistance that they need to scale to the next level. So it's for companies that are already beyond the pure startup phase and have the opportunity to grow. We hope that they can grow to $100 million in revenues or $100 million exit. On July 14th, we opened the Gibbs Street pedestrian bridge in South Waterfront. So that bridge spans I-5 from the South Portland neighborhood into South Waterfront. For any of you who have spent time trying to walk around and connect those two neighborhoods, it's almost impossible to walk from one to the other. That neighborhood got seriously divided when the highway was put in, and so this is another part of the South Waterfront development that attempts to connect those neighborhoods. We put in around $500,000 from the North Macadam URA. I think it was roughly a $10 million project, and much of it came from federal money. So that bridge was actually named in honor of former Representative Darlene Hooley, who was instrumental in acquiring the dollars for that. So I encourage people to check out that bridge. It's a very cool bridge. On July 26th, I had the chance to speak on a panel hosted by the Business Journal, on business growth, and that led to an article in the Business Journal this week, which was somewhat humorous in that it was a whole article about the fact that we're trying to get our money out the door, but we do appreciate the attention. We do have money to lend, and we made that clear at this Business Growth Summit, and I'll just repeat it here. Any businesses looking for assistance, whether it be financial assistance or technical assistance, should definitely contact us. Either we have the products that can help them, or we can certainly put them in touch with folks who can, both lenders and technical assistance providers. On Monday, this was an event that we hosted, but it was a very encouraging event. The Elemental Technologies, one of the leading lights in the software industry here in Portland, and a company that we've helped move into their new space just across Burnside, hosted a mayoral forum, and the forum was focused on issues around entrepreneurship and startups, and and the tech community. And so it was an opportunity for people to ask of the mayoral candidates their positions on things like the seed fund and support for entrepreneurship. So we're very encouraged to see that type of conversation happening in the community during this important election. And then the last event I want to highlight is one that I had the opportunity to host and MC. We on August 7th, we had the honor of announcing a $50,000 contribution from Chase, and I have the actual check right here with me. Everybody likes a big check. So Chase was the first corporate sponsor to step up and support our Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative. And this money, the $50,000, will go directly to the 6 districts who have to raise $30,000 of match each to participate in the program. So it really was a great day to kick this off, and I truly appreciate Chase's leadership on this. And I vow any company that wants to step up and support the MPI, we will show their check on TV. So promise to do it.
That's great.
Also had a few nice articles that appeared, and I just want to highlight them because I think it does reflect some of the good things that are going on in the city and with our work. Oregon Business Magazine featured work that we're doing with the minority entrepreneur community around connecting minority entrepreneurs with the tech sector. I'll just list these through, and people can search them. We had the Oregonian did a piece on Shelley Mithun, or the person who runs the mayor's office of film and video, who works here at PDC. There's just a tremendous amount going on in that industry, as you know. The Grimm premiere was just this week. They had quite a function the other night. The Oregonian also wrote about Jennifer Nolfi and Sue Ball, our A&O team, who were in Salt Lake City, and kind of profiled the work that they do when they hit the ground in these trade shows. There were 50 Oregon companies who were featured at this trade show, and Jennifer and Sue did their best to meet them all. That's obviously one of our clusters, and it's an industry that always showcases what's best about Portland. Last week, Slate ran an article that was really an update on what's going on in the Portland economy, and the title was "How Portland Got Its Groove Back," and it was everybody thinks that Portland is a place where young people go to retire. Well, the statistics now tell us that the economy is growing probably as fast as any metro area in the country, and it really is a place where people can come and find jobs. So it was nice to get that national recognition. And then tomorrow we'll be talking with folks from Japan, something called TV Tokyo, and they're covering once again the development that has occurred within the city of Portland, both on the physical development side as well as the economic development side. And then a couple of quick upcoming events. Our management team, our leadership team, is actually having its own retreat tomorrow, so we're going to spend a day talking about the coming fiscal year. Chair Andrews mentioned that we're just started a new fiscal year, so we're looking ahead and planning around our priorities. Next Tuesday, the China Development Bank is going to be in town. Gerding Edelin has built a great relationship with representatives from the China Development Bank, and so they're coming to Portland to learn about what we do. They represent a significant opportunity, not just for companies who are doing business in China, where there's significant development happening, but also there is a potential for increased Chinese investment here in Portland or in the U.S. Later on next week, some of us will be participating in something that OHSU calls their immersion experience, but OHSU has invited a number of folks to come and spend a day at the hospital on the campus to really learn what goes on so that we can have a better understanding of their needs. And I think our ongoing partnership with them makes that an important learning experience. At the end of the month, I think, unless someone corrects me, we will be unveiling the MLK Gateway and Heritage Markers. So we'll have a grand opening for that, and that's a project that's been long coming. That's the project in which we're creating a gateway at the where MLK splits, and it really is the gateway heading north into North and Northeast Portland. So that'll be a great event. And then lastly, I just want to put on everybody's calendars that the Greater Portland Inc. will be having its 5th annual Economic Summit on September 27th, and that's really when the region comes together to talk about economic development issues. And it's been a great event in past years, and Greater Portland has a ton of momentum and so we're really looking forward to that regional conversation. I do want to once again spend a few minutes talking about some new employees. So the first one I want to talk about is our new records management and policy development coordinator. His name is Mike Salisbury, sitting right here in the front row. Mike, the records coordinator job is not a sexy job. I think Mike would be the first to admit that, but it is a critical job, particularly in a public agency where we have legal obligations to maintain records in a certain form for certain periods of time. And so Mike has joined us in that role, and he's already kind of thrown himself into it. Mike has extensive experience in this area. He was the records and information manager for Clackamas County, and then prior to that, he was the archive supervisor for Washington County for 15 years. So extensive experience. I won't go into Mike's incredibly impressive resume, but he was in the Navy and the reserves for 10 years. He has a law degree and a degree in anthropology. So if you have questions beyond records, Mike can answer those, I think. So welcome, Mike. We also have a new administrative coordinator within our business and industry division. Her name is Kate Al-Shakely. Kate is hiding behind the post, as a lot of people end up doing when we try and introduce them. There she is back there. So Kate joins us from the private sector. She worked for a company called High Impact Technology, and so she worked it was basically a small company and was the office manager there. She basically did everything as people normally do in small companies, and so she can certainly handle the issues that we have within our business and industry division. So welcome, Kate. And then we also have with us, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we participate in a program called Summer Works. It's a program that was established by the county and the city. The mayor and former Multnomah County Chair Ted Wheeler established a program basically to connect high school students to job opportunities, and it's a program that runs throughout their time in high school. So so every year a number of employers, a lot of public agencies provide job opportunities to high school students, and so we have 3 high school students working for us. We have 2 of them here with us. On the left is Khadija Abdur Rahim. Did I get your name right there? So she's joined us for the summer, and then Brianna Bradford is the other person who's joined us for the summer. A third student, Rachel Shepard, is not here with us, but welcome for the summer, and we're glad we're able to help you guys with this great experience. So thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Welcome, everyone. Great report. A lot of positive things happened. The commission had the month of July off, but PDC didn't. And I know that we are going to be looking forward to some good announcements to come. So next item on the agenda is the meeting minutes for June 27th, 2012. I would look to a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any changes, additions, discussion? Long minutes because it was our tax advisory. Okay. Then all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. Looks like we have 3 people who would like to testify, all with regard to the educational urban renewal area. They could all come up at the same time. Is it Marion Holmes? Danielle Marlin? Sorry, hard to read. Danielle Grondin and Pierce Whitehead. Welcome. Each of you has 3 minutes today, and I'll let you decide who gets to go first.
All right, thank you. of this list. All right. Good morning, Chair Andrews and fellow distinguished commissioners. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak today. My name is Pierce Whitehead. I am the Metropolitan Affairs Director and Officer of the Associated Students of Portland State, and I'm former Vice President of last year's student body of PSU. I have been a part of the Portland State community for 4 years, with 2 of those years living on campus and the rest living within a quarter mile distance from PSU. So I'm proud to say I'm a member of the Portland State student community that rests comfortably within the education-urban renewal area boundaries. As a member of the university neighborhood, I'm excited and hopeful about the future of Portland State's University District and the South of Market Eco District now with the passing of the new Urban Renewal Project. This is a great opportunity to invest in our sustainable future. From ocean acidification, massive loss of species, to redefining coastal geography, climate change will be directly affecting my future and the lives of my children. We need to begin heavy investing in researching sustainable innovations in green industries now if we hope to move the societal inertia away from climate change. The success of this project means a lot to us. We are the future generation that will be the economic drivers of these cluster developments, and as students, we will be personally determining the success of our region's future. We must find innovations, research opportunities, and develop strategic partnerships that will bring out the full potential in our students if we want to ensure the strongest return on our city's $169 million investment. We therefore need to ensure that both the urban form and the corresponding programs create a highly attractive environment for our future students. To create a highly attractive student environment, decision makers need to fully understand the culture of the student experience. This means understanding what makes us tick, what attracts us, what repels us, what brings joy and satisfaction, and what produces stress and loneliness. All the various trials and tribulations that the contemporary student experiences at PSU on a daily basis must be understood if we hope to bring the fullest return in our investments. Too often, decision makers and investors focus on the economic and environmental aspects of sustainability, but fall short on incorporating the equitable social component that is invariably tied to sustainability. If we want to create the full vision of a sustainable neighborhood, then we need to address the paradigm that Tim Smith, one of the founding visionaries of the Eco District, called civic ecology. Civic ecology is the shared ownership of citizens to their particular place that, if invested in, will increase local pride, creativity, and potentially increase the local economic multipliers and decrease the region's leakages. Students have the exponential wisdom of the PSU neighborhood. And with that, I highly suggest that students have a seat at the advisory committee to the Education Urban Renewal Project. Thank you.
Well done.
So good morning, Chair Andrews and members of the commission. I'd also like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you all today. My name is Danielle Grondin, and I am a student at Portland State University studying sociology. I am also the Food Systems Coordinator at the Institute for Sustainable Solutions. Today I would like to speak to the importance of student perspectives on this exciting new educational urban renewal project. I'm happy to hear that the Institute for Sustainable Solutions has been identified as a center of excellence and a model institute for future innovation incubators at Portland State. Over the last 2 years, the ISS has allowed me to deepen my professional capabilities. Positions through the ISS provide student opportunities to take our knowledge out of the classroom and apply it to within our community. While working at the ISS, I have gained invaluable skills that allow me to navigate a professional realm. Moreover, the ISS has provided a space for me to develop my own capacities as a leader. My leadership experience is not limited to my work within the ISS. I also lived on campus for 2 years as a resident assistant, and in doing so, I gained insights from different perspectives students shared, and also, because of that, I am better to connect with my peers as a result. I have come to know and understand the incredibly diverse student population of PSU, and I feel that student perspectives are beneficial and even critical to include in large decisions that affect our community. We have an incredible opportunity to strengthen the student experience and expand our region's economic future in sustainably focused industries. Through ensuring our region's businesses have a competitive advantage in our 4 target industry clusters, as outlined in the city strategy, we can be more confident that we are moving towards a sustainable future. However, without the insights of community members who have personal experience and the wisdom of being current students of Portland State, I am concerned that this project will not gain the best return for the city's investment. We have amazingly talented students, as well as awe-inspiring innovation in the fields of urban studies, sustainability, and business entrepreneurship. By having student representation on the stewards group, I am confident that we can discover development that both students and investors will love and cherish. As a student leader, I strongly urge that the Portland Development Commission accepts a student representative as a member of the stewards group of the Educational Urban Renewal Area Project. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Good morning, Chair Andrews, members of the Commission, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Marlon Holmes. I'm a graduate student at Portland State University, where I was previously a non-traditional undergraduate student. I'm also the Vice President of the student body, so my apologies for my partner, the President, who wasn't able to make it today. My master's program is in the School of Education with a focus on post-secondary adult and continuing education specialization. As an older student celebrating my 33rd birthday yesterday, I hope to offer another lens for the Commission to view the student life and engagement with the larger downtown metropolitan area. The PDC, Portland State University, and stakeholders involved in the creation of the Education Urban Renewal Area see this area as an economic engine and a reform mechanism for education funding. It will undoubtedly enhance the existing community, much the way the Pearl District has been revitalized from a brownfield to its current state with similar initiatives. Many folks link the revitalization of central business districts and gentrification of residential neighborhoods to urban renewal programs. In our great city of roses, we have all seen firsthand or read about the destruction that once plagued many of the residents of the city. The relocation of Interstate 5, the creation of the Lloyd Center, Emmanuel Hospital, the Convention Center, have had the effect of displacing many Portlandians. Past URAs have ignored the communities that have been affected by such projects. We want to ensure that students who are the target audience do not become displaced. The PDC wants to increase housing and campus amenities for a vibrant community, so we cannot afford to get this wrong. This downtown area is becoming one of Portland's most diverse neighborhoods with an enrollment of 30,000 students. 23% of the student body identifies as a minority. While there have been a 50% increase in international student enrollment over the past 5 years. As the university continues to grow exponentially, administrative figures place enrollment at 36,000 to 50,000 over the next 20 years. Then the question then is, how do we go from here? How do we not repeat the errors from the past? The City of Portland and the Commission aim to use urban renewal policy not for destruction but for renovation and investment. We at PSU also understand it to be a tool of our local government to invest financial and human capital to serve the city and its citizens. As we, the PSU Vikings, adhere to our school motto, let knowledge serve the city, we ask of this commission today to consider the added benefits of having the voice of Portland State students in the discussions and membership of committees to be created focusing on the success and the development of the education urban renewal area. Our university administration and members of our student government work diligently to have student input and voice in nearly every area of the university with our all-university committees. We, the Associated Students of Portland State, believe that like PSU, the City of Portland and the PDC will be successful and transparent in its mission with the addition of student input in the future of the URA.
Thank you. Also well done. I want to thank all three of you for taking the time to testify today. I mean, I really enjoy the passion and the interest, and also obviously the understanding that this has the ability of being a big game changer in the neighborhood. The testimony comes at a really good time. We're in the middle of reworking the policy for the urban renewal advisory committees. I can't tell you that there would be a specific slot for a Portland State student, but this kind of input helps, and I would certainly expect that several Portland State students would apply, and it would be very, very appropriate in my mind that at least one be a member of that committee. I'm not even sure at this point there isn't a time frame set for creating one, is there, for this district?
No, the resources don't come online for at least, I think, another year, if not longer. So we do have some time to talk through these issues about what's appropriate for the new district. So, like you say, it's the right time. We appreciate the input, and the fact that we don't have an answer doesn't, just is a matter of timing more than anything else. So,
yeah, thank you, Commissioner
Well, I want to thank you also for coming in, and I won't put any one of you specifically on the spot, so I'll offer a broad question, and anyone who wants to can answer. You're not suggesting that we're old and out of touch, are you?
No.
No, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
You didn't give him a chance to answer. Come on.
I didn't want to hear the answer.
It was my birthday yesterday, too, so happy birthday to you. But
Thank you. Same to you.
God, I loved everything I heard from you, and I would just say, get going now. Bring your initiatives to the table right now. You are the next generation. We do need to listen to what you have to say, and there's nothing to stop you from bringing initiatives to the table right now, so thanks for your testimony today.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullis?
No, thanks very much to all three of you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yes. It's from the cloud. The next item is a Hats Off Award. I guess we, the three of us. So this is a tradition that we have when we have an employee who's done above and beyond. We like to provide a little positive feedback. We call them the Hats Off Award. This is Nixie Stark, and the commissioners want to thank you for diligent project follow-through and dedication to the organization, including exceeding the demands of clients for storefront and DOS letter agreements, and for identifying issues, providing thoughts and innovative ideas during storefront meetings, and for being able to depend on her to have answers to questions or know where to find them at a moment's notice, and for being an excellent collaborator who consistently identifies ways to streamline and improve process flow. By doing all of the above, she serves as an example to others of how to embrace the Commission's mission and values. Thank you.
Thank you. Proud to be here.
Okay, on to the second item on the regular agenda. It's an action item, Resolution 6958, authorizing the Executive Director to execute an agreement for purchase and sale of property within RiverPlace Partners 2 to convey 1.12 acres of real property in the North Macadam urban renewal area for $5,250,000. Say that very quickly 3 times. Lisa.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Abuaf, a manager with the Central City team here at PDC. This is going to be my first test with our new PowerPoint process, so hopefully this works. So yes, as the chair mentioned, we are here to dispose of property via a purchase and sale agreement, and first and foremost, I want to thank there was an extensive disposition team who worked on this, and actually Eric Jacobson, who's the project manager on the project and couldn't be here because he's on vacation, but it's certainly thanks to his work. So parcel information, this is a site that's down in the North Macadam urban renewal area. You see it there actually in the red. It's about just over an acre because it actually also includes some of the private right-of-way that's down in RiverPlace. PDC acquired it in 1985. So we've held this land for over 25 years. And as you'll note, an appraisal that we had completed this year was for $5.17 million. So where we are today is we've been taking a look at some of our non-strategic parcels, including this site, and looking at how we can pursue a market rate transaction that would result in development and tax generation, but allow us to monetize our assets for other efforts. This gives you a little bit of history of the site. What you see in the upper left-hand corner is what the site looked like when we first acquired it. PDC has put significant investment into adjacent parcels and right-of-way improvements to provide connectivity down to the site, including activities from the 80s into the 2000s of building out housing and commercial, and then the streetcar extension as well as the current light rail extension that's going into this area. And then last but not least, the Strand that was completed in 2004 and was the most recent phase of the RiverPlace development. So we undertook the disposition process for this site has really been since 2006. We undertook 2 RFPs for redevelopment of the site between 2006 and 2007. This came at the downturn of the market. We actually at one point had an MOU for the site. It expired with the downturn of the market. About a year or so ago, we started getting interest in purchasing the site, and so we determined to put it out for a request for offers. We put that out in February, and we received 3 offers, from which the RiverPlace partners proposal was selected, and it was selected based on kind of major key factors, such as it was the highest price. It assumed their purchase price actually assumed them taking the property with the known environmental conditions. There was an earnest money deposit, and there was an experienced development team. We, at the time that we were issuing the RFO, as well as part of the request for proposals, we have held ongoing conversations both with the RiverPlace Plan community as well as Strand representatives to keep them in the loop, both in terms of the process that we are undertaking for requests for offers as well as their input along the way. And we know that they have ongoing interests and have captured that in the document for the developer and the future owner of this site to join in their Plan Community Association and for them to have an opportunity to weigh in on design. So again, the selected offer was from RiverPlace Partners, and the major partners in this are Dyke Dame and Jack Onder, who I would introduce as being in the audience and invite up after this presentation to provide their comment. Another key item to highlight in terms of this proposal is we've been doing a lot of work around EB5 and making it a new tool available in Portland, and this project is based on use of EB5 financing. Key purchase and sale agreement terms and benefits. Again, it's a purchase price of $5.25 million, so you'll note that against the appraised value. This is a market rate transaction with no PDC dollars in and a 5% earnest money deposit of about $260,000. Really, our goals in terms of a development are to ensure development that's in alignment with the URA plans and that it continues to generate taxes into the district as well as being in alignment with the adjacent neighbors' goals via the design advice review process and the design review process that the city manages. Another thing to highlight for you out of the purchase and sale agreement is, again, as I mentioned earlier, they are taking the site with known environmental issues actually under the right-of-way. To the curb line, we have cleaned up the site and believe it to be clean, but there is known contamination within the right-of-way. We have agreed for a holdback, an escrow holdback of $100,000 from the purchase price, that in case they encounter any unknown environmental conditions from the curb line into the site, they would have that to use for part of the cleanup. The schedule is, you see, we are here in August. This is kind of the latest that the schedule could actually really flow. Closing will happen someplace between November 2012 and May 2013. Based on certain conditions to closing, and then they would enter into design and permitting. PDC keeps the right to repurchase the property through to start of construction so that if development is not occurring per the schedule that they have proposed, we are able to repurchase the property back with construction completed at the end of 2016 at the latest. So that concludes the presentation. I would ask, I think, Dyke and Jack to join me if you have any questions either for project staff or for the development team.
Good morning.
Hello, how are you? Okay. Nice to be here. I'm Jack Onder, Onder Development, Dyke Dame, Williams and Dame Development.
I'd start out differently. Do you guys know how long Jack and I have worked on the property down there? Starting in, what, Jack, 1999? Yeah. When what is now the Strand, an RFP went out with a hotel. And, of course, 9/11 happened and all of those things, and so that didn't work, and we disconnected the hotel from the condo component, got that going, and then you folks made a great decision and said, while you're building the condo, could you also build a parking garage that we will own, which Jack was effective in doing. And so Jack and I have a long history down there, and it's kind of fun to think about that when we thought about a hotel in 1999, finally we're sitting here in 2012, and maybe we can actually do it.
Good. I know the neighbors are here, and I wanted to just sort of give you a little history there. I have had discussions with both the RiverPlace Planned Community Association and assured them that we want our hotel to be an active member of the community association and all the requirements of that. We look forward to working with the community to design and develop the hotel in a way that works for the neighborhood in the best way possible. And I've also had discussions with the president of the board of the Strand and told him the same thing, that we want to work with them and will be open to suggestions. There is some concern about perhaps part of our proposal, and it was not a condition of the proposal, but an offer to lease a certain amount of spaces in the existing RiverPlace garage. As part of our purchase and sale agreement, if we were to still want to do that, we would have to do a parking study, and certainly would do that. We have other alternatives for the parking. The hotel is going to need somewhere around 80 parking spaces on an average. There is other parking available in the neighborhood, and if that doesn't work out, we can include the parking within the project. Also, some ingress and egress issues have been raised, and we certainly are going to work with PBOT and the neighbors and make sure that we can work all those things out to the benefit of everybody. So,
okay, thank you. Traditionally, and I think we'll follow it this time as well, we like to have the citizens comment before commissioners get into answering questions. So we'll probably be asking you to get some more exercise and return to the table.
Great.
So we will, I do have 3 people signed up to testify on this topic, and they could all come up at the same time: Tom Eggers, Carolyn Whitney, and Bryce Stevens. Good morning and welcome. And again, we'll ask you to hold your testimony to 3 minutes. Most people don't quite hit it exactly like the PSU students did, but they were amazing.
Well, why don't I begin? Chairman Andrews, members of the board, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak with you this morning. My name is Tom Eggers, and I'm here as a private resident of the Strand. Helps to have the blue light on the microphone. First of all, I'm very happy that Parcel 8 development may be moving forward, that if this proposal is approved, the development will be undertaken by RiverPlace partners, and that if things go according to their plans, that a high-quality business would occupy the site. I would like to just encourage all parties that are concerned with this, that at this very early date, that, as I think Jack alluded, that some adequate provision be made for service bay, loading dock, trash, access and egress that minimizes noise, disruption, enhances traffic flow, and also protects the neighborhood aesthetic. A few things that might be noteworthy. One is that Hall Street, which fronts the Strand, is actually narrower than either Moody or River Drive. Also that Hall Street is faced by homeowners, by equity owners, whereas River Drive is fronted by apartments or renters, and that Moody fronts David Evans, which is occupied by office workers. Again, we would encourage all parties to keep those stakeholders in mind as they move forward. And again, Jack has given us assurances that will take place, and that's very encouraging. So therefore, if an agreement to purchase is approved, I'm sure our association will look forward to working with everyone, including RiverPlace partners, And again, I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
My name is Carolyn Whitney, and I'm a resident of the East Tower of the Strand, and I'd like to take a 10-minute break and have those Portland State students help me make my presentation. They did such a good job. Just joking. I love living at RiverPlace. I think it's a great place to live, and part of the fun of living there is showing it off to friends and also having the local businesses there. There's quite a bit of turnover. I don't know if you've been down there a lot on the Esplanade, but the businesses turn over quite a bit, and I think having adequate parking for those businesses is critical for them, as well as the livability for people at the Strand and other people that live there. I personally have had friends say, could we have the party at our place instead of yours, because parking is such a hassle down there. I just can't handle it. Currently, there are three restaurants that are out of business right now. 2 of them are supposed to open up in August. And according to our concierge, parking is already an issue with those 3 businesses being out of business. We have the restaurant up for sale, and I don't know how serious having no parking for that restaurant is, but we have the Lucier that was part of the Strand development that doesn't have any parking. So if the hotel is dependent on existing parking, street parking and structures, I think it will have a serious impact on the residents and the other commercial businesses in the area. I had some contact with PDC a few weeks ago and understand that the design of the building and parking is part of another bureau, but I was interested in letting you know today that I think it's a very serious concern. And I heard Jack, thank you, say that he was going to be doing a study and interested in working with the residents, but I think you might pay attention to this issue, and I don't know if it's normal to have adequate parking be a stipulation with regard to the sale, but I think you might consider that in a dense area like we have down at RiverPlace.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Chair Andrews and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Bryce Stevens. I'm a principal in multi-services, and we're the managing agent for the Strand, as well as RiverPlace Planned Community, and also the road triad for the private street that's down there amongst these properties. I'm really here with just 3 points. I'll keep it brief this morning. We would ask that the Commission ensure that part of the final sales agreement is that the parking issue is addressed. PDC knows as well as those that live there that parking has always been an issue in that neighborhood, and so it's very important that that get addressed. As Jack indicated their willingness, we would like to see in the purchase agreement a requirement to join the planned community, the RiverPlace planned community, and then that ensured through the design review process that there's a public outreach. I would also add that I wanted to thank Lisa and Eric with PDC. They've been great reaching out to the community and working with us to keep us informed about what's going on. And then finally, I would lend my support to RiverPlace Partners, too, as the selected development team. We've worked with them on a number of projects, and they are a top-notch organization, and we have confidence that they will perform well for the neighborhood. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And again, thank you for coming in today. My questions are going to be for Lisa and the principals. But Charles, do you have any?
No, thank you very much for coming in.
Just a general question about the parking. Is it a weekend issue? Is it all week long? What's driving the parking issues?
Well, I think especially in the summer when people like to come down to the Esplanade, that's a critical time, and that would be both weekends and during the week. I don't think it's as serious an issue, but I haven't done a parking analysis myself, but 80 spaces is a lot of spaces, and I don't know what the number of spaces are in the 3 structures where you pay for parking. I'm not sure about that, but we have a lot of issues with street parking right in front of the Strand. The people that live in the apartments are really smart. They know when those spaces are going to be opened up, and you don't have to pay for parking, and they are completely booked. So it is difficult to have friends come down, and maybe Tom or Bryce have more information.
I would just say that I would agree that the main use is during the summer and holiday times, but also when the Strand was under consideration for development, one of the large outcries from the neighborhood down there was that there wasn't enough visitor and guest parking, and that's how the parking garage got included in the Strand development, the final agreement. And so it's been an issue down there since the 80s, and it continues to be an issue that needs to be addressed.
And I would add there are also seasonal events, the Christmas ship, for example, activity, special holiday activities that bring people into the area. So it's not exclusively a summer parking issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, anything?
No, this sounds like a good deal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Lisa, come back up with our developers. First I want to say to the development team, thanks for hanging in there. I mean, we all know I'm in the development business too, and I always say that a good project dies at least 7 times before it actually gets built. So it's one of the things that you learn is you just pick yourself up off the ground and
we were young guys when this started.
keep trying. Secondly, it's really exciting to have this opportunity. Frankly, this is the first time in the 4 years that I've been on the commission that we've been sitting here talking about selling a piece of land at market so that a development can happen without a subsidy from PDC. And I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a trend that we are all seeing ourselves coming out of this great economic debacle. We see it in many, many ways in terms of increased employment and increased tax collections, and it seems like the news gets better all of the time, but this is real. I'd also point out that as we've talked before as a commission, we have many districts that are in the process of winding down in areas where, quite frankly, we're not going to have the capability of providing funding for. So this is a beginning of really understanding the assets that we have and making sure that they're used in the correct way. But my prediction is over the next decade, certainly, we will be, or some commission will be sitting here talking about selling a piece of property at a market rate to hopefully somebody who is going to immediately develop it. I appreciate the concerns of the citizens, but I'd also point out that there's a very public and city process that this has to go through. I think this is my sense is that you're just making sure that we understand, and you're also putting on notice, I think, the Planning Commission and the folks who are taking a look at the parking that the neighborhood has concerns and that they need to be addressed. My experience as you go through that process, they are addressed one way or the other. But I think it was very appropriate for you to be here today. So I think you have basically stated that there are a number of options with regard to parking, and at the end of the day, if none of them are available and the city would require it, that parking would be part of the project. Am I incorrect with that? Perfect.
Yes, and the study will, bear that out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm also confident, and Steve, I'm sure, can back me up, that the Planning Commission will take your concerns with regard to the loading dock and the garbage area quite strongly. I mean, that's what they do. So that's all I had. Steve, I'll start with you this time.
Well, thanks for hanging in there. This is obviously a spectacular opportunity for the PDC. We've taken a very modest initial investment, and by making such a significant investment with you in that neighborhood, the value of that property has obviously gone up to put a lot of money in the PDC's pockets, and we appreciate your making that investment. We really do. I do have just a couple of questions. One, I notice that there's a limitation of going down only 12 feet below grade. Is that related to environmental issues, and what would stop us from going any deeper than that?
Well, right now there's no plan to have a basement. If we do have a basement, it would go down approximately no more than 12 feet. So anything below that would be our responsibility. But the $100,000 escrow would pertain to the surface down to 12 feet if we encounter anything unforeseen.
Lisa, I know you're familiar with environmental, so.
It really had to do that capping. It's kind of comparable to the 100,000, which is they had proposed a design and they said, we're purchasing this property as you represented it. And we said then, and if we carry 100,000 holdback, they had proposed a design. And so we kind of predicated it, benchmarked by how we had represented the site in terms of cleanliness, and then how they had represented their design. And that created our goalposts for capping environmental risk.
So just to confirm, they have the ability to go lower than 12 feet if they so choose to, but they would be responsible for any increased environmental costs if they go below the 12 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. And then this really is an absolutely jewel of a site. I mean, the way that whole neighborhood has come together, it's also a spectacular opportunity for you. But I know the PDC, once they sell the property, doesn't have any rights to ask you to do anything above and beyond what you've signed up for. But it really would be a wonderful place for fabulous artwork there to kind of cap that place. I notice we're paying $80,000 more than the assessed values. I would love the PDC to consider some investment back in artwork in there that maybe could be matched by the developers. This is really a wonderful piece of property and a wonderful development for all the community to share in. So I hope you will consider that when you move forward.
Charles?
Sure. Well, I won't beat the dead horse, but appreciate your perseverance. And it is an ideal site, and that causes me to ask, we determined, and I'm just pretending I'm a citizen now, not a commissioner, that it didn't have a big strategic value for us. And how do we make that determination?
It was really in terms of the uses that we were getting inquiries on, that they were either residential or hotel, and we're really looking at our land strategically from an economic development point of view as to how we could build them out. More in terms of commercial to align with our industry.
And I'm just obviously I would add, it's not strategic, and obviously it's a great site, and so it has a ton of value, and it's an important building block for that neighborhood. It's strategic in the sense that we, PDC, don't have specific plans for it, but I think it's important to recognize, Lisa pointed this out, it's a lot of its value comes from the work that we've done and others have done around there, and so I think this is partially what PDC is capitalizing on, is we now have the opportunity to move a site that we don't have specific plans for, but we know does have tremendous value, and that there is, it will be kind of, another step in the development of that neighborhood. So it's a strategic site, but it's just not strategic for PDC.
Okay. Do you mind if I make an additional comment?
No, please do.
Charles. I think it's also important to recognize that you own the land immediately south of this site. And as this site is developed, it will only enhance the value of what you call Parcel 3, which is where the substation is. So I just think that's also important.
Now, we talked earlier about the fact that this site initially had been contemplated for a hotel. Was it a hotel of similar size, or did we get that far down the road?
Actually, it was smaller.
Smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole idea, of course, is to activate the waterfront. So this will help do that.
Okay.
And I think that benefits everybody and makes RiverPlace more of a place, an important place for the city.
And just to continue on Commissioner Strauss's question about the 12-foot depth, does that relate to issues that possibly could result from the parking analysis? Is it contemplated that there could be underground parking in this particular project?
Right. If we decide, and the study shows that we should build the parking on site, we would go down one level, and that's the 12 feet.
Okay. And I'm assuming the 80 spaces that you're looking at are standard for that number of rooms.
Typically what we are told is that, and I think this is high, the capture rate, as it's called in the hotel industry, for a facility like this would be about 40% of the room count, which gets us to the 80. We don't think it probably gets that high because there's a streetcar stop immediately in front of the facility. So it's got all kinds of alternatives from a mass transit standpoint.
and I'm blanking right now. There's a hotel not far up. Is that a residence or a Renaissance?
That's a residence inn.
Residence inn. And how far is that? I'm just blanking on distance-wise.
Patty corner.
A stone's throw.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Highest occupancy in the city.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. And
Boy, ask more money then. No, I'm joking.
it costs you more. One of the terms is that we PDC, a repurchase option. Price of that, or how would that be established, assuming the worst? If that's triggered, what does that look like?
It's actually, it's framed as the purchase price that would be paid to us if we turned around and resold it on the market on that day, minus a certain number of costs that have been incurred during the time leading up to, right? So if there has been X amount of dollars spent on design, et cetera, it would be minus those, they would get those dollars back recovered. And then it's capped, though. It's capped actually at the purchase price that they are paying today.
Okay.
So it's no more than.
Okay. And then this last question I have kind of relates to the complexity of getting the funding and getting the project up and running. And you mentioned the EB5. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit more for people who might not be experts in that area? Which is probably about 99% of the room.
It's complex.
Yeah. Maybe you can give us a broad overview. Just
yeah, EB5 is a program run under the auspices of the federal government, and it provides an opportunity for people in foreign countries who, if they invest in either a targeted employment area or a non-targeted employment area, $500,000 or $1 million, depending on which it is. And it generates a certain number of jobs, and it's not just jobs. These are induced jobs also. And it gives these folks access to a green card and a visa and access to the United States. And so it's applicable to spouse and any children under the age of 21. So frequently used by people all over the world, frankly. I have two friends from Ireland who are now citizens of the United States who came here under EB5 investments that they made in Vermont. All of the money that we have raised for the Pearl Hotel project that came before you also here a number of months ago, all of that money is committed from folks in China.
Well, thanks. That was a very good summation. Didn't take too much. Well, we are the melting pot, so that's one of the reasons why. All I will say is, it sounds like the issue in front of us is pretty transparent. It's a parking issue, but everyone is excited about the development opportunity. That is a very nice location for a hotel. I think the residents' performance makes it clear that people like being in the area, so it seems like it has a platform for good success, but we want to be very aware of our constituents and our neighborhood partners, and I think we've made it clear that that's on everyone's forefront. So good luck with moving forward. Thank you.
John?
Appreciate the other commissioners' questions and the folks that answered them. It chimed in a little bit early. Apologize for that. It's a little harder when you're not in the room. No, it sounds good. I appreciate the conversation on the parking, and I also appreciate the explanation of the visa program. And it seems to me that's a device that's been used in a lot of other cities, and we're just kind of starting to go down that path in Portland. I think it holds some promise. So, thanks.
Thank you, John. Thank you. So I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 6958, authorizing the Executive Director to execute an agreement for purchase and sale of property with RiverPlace Partners 2 to convey 1.12 acres of real property in North Macadam urban renewal area for $5.25 million.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Let's get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll try.
All right, we're a little behind time. The next item is also an action item, Resolution 6959, authorizing negotiation of the Veterans Memorial Coliseum operating agreement. We have Peter Englander and Kevin Brake. I thought that I would start and introduce this. I think you know that I have been kind of personally involved in this project for the last 2 years, and I have been personally involved because I think it's a very, very important project for this city for a couple of reasons. First, there's a significant amount of risk to the Portland City Fund if the Memorial Coliseum is not renovated. They're currently spending $500,000 a year or more on maintenance because the equipment is 50 years old, and in some cases it's just expensive to maintain in order to keep it alive. The second one, much more importantly from our point of view, is that I strongly believe that the lack of development in the Rose Quarter District is a direct result of the fact that there's been a big question mark on this building for the last 17 years. We've talked about baseball stadiums and other uses, and I think it's very, very difficult for any developer to design a project and pro forma it with wondering what the heck the future of the Memorial Coliseum is. We are here today under kind of an unusual circumstance, an unusual opportunity. About 3 weeks ago, I think that we were coming very close to the goal line in terms of getting this done. This is a very complex agreement. You will see a chart here shortly. There are 13 individual contracts or licenses that are part of this negotiation between the Portland Winterhawks, PAM, the city through OMF, and PDC. Up to that point, as we were dotting the I's and crossing the T's, there was a fundamental disconnect in terms of the understanding of OMF and the understanding of the Winterhawks as to where the deal was going. The Winterhawks, as part of their $10 million investment, was fully expecting, in fact, requiring the ability to play in the Memorial Coliseum for the next 20 years. Within the context of the negotiation of the revenue sharing agreement, OMF thought that they had made it clear that without some certainty in terms of their risk with regard to operating the Memorial Coliseum beyond 2023, that they weren't willing to do a 10-year, more than the 10-year period. The Winterhawks didn't. They looked at it within the context of the revenue sharing agreement. They did not understand that, and I will tell you, frankly, I didn't either. It just didn't dawn on me that that wasn't the case, because it seems very reasonable that for a $10 million investment that the Winterhawks would have the capability of playing for the 20 years. So the conversation halted. There was a complete deadlock. It was clear to me and everyone else around the table that unless we could find a way to solve this particular piece, the project would die. And I got an opportunity to think about it a little bit and talk with Patrick and said, perhaps if we can negotiate an opportunity to go into the operating agreement, into the position of the operator, and we can cap the risk and capture all of the upside, that this might be an opportunity for us to both save this project as well as, quite frankly, create a positive revenue stream for PDC at the time frame that we take it over. We've done an awful lot of due diligence. There'll be a lot more to happen. All we are doing today is basically authorizing Patrick to move forward. The final agreement will have to come back to the board for approval. We will have a more complete analysis of the financials, which you'll have an opportunity to see. I'm convinced, on a general basis, I will tell you that the Memorial Coliseum lost about $160,000 last year, and that is in the worst economy that we've seen in a long time, and that's with a building that it's in the worst condition that it can possibly be. So I think that the opportunity for upside is there. The Winterhawks projection of their revenue sharing shows a positive $600,000 at the end of 2023. But we don't know what it's going to be like at that point. So what we have done in terms of capping our risk is provided that in absolutely the worst case, we would have the capability of either operating the Memorial Coliseum for only the Winterhawks if they continued to want to play there, or if the Winterhawks actually decided not to continue to play there, that we could actually shut the Memorial Coliseum down. I don't expect that to happen. And before I turn it over, the last thing I wanted to say is I do not expect, I mean, we're not going to be on the board at that period of time, I don't think. Maybe. But in that period of time, I don't expect that PDC will be operating this. PDC will be hiring someone to operate it. And we've done some checking to find out would there be interest, and we have found that, yes, there would be a lot of interest in doing it. So I can't tell you that I like being in this position. I think if it was not for making sure that this project could move forward, I would not be making this proposal to the board today. But I think the project is important enough that we need to consider it. So with that, Peter, Kevin, you want to?
Chair Andrews, members of the Commission, Executive Director Quinton, Peter Englander, Central City Manager here at the Portland Development Commission. Chair Andrews, you've outlined significantly what Kevin will go through on how we will proceed in negotiating new agreements that have just come up recently. We are also asking for action on bringing the redevelopment agreement, which has been under negotiation for a significant period of time, to fruition. We have been operating under the authority of the Executive Director in funding the legal services to complete that transaction, and we need more money to do that. Some portion of that money, if spent and we are successful in obtaining additional resources for historic tax credits, we'll get some of the resources that Kevin will present today back as part of the funding of the historic tax credit transaction. But we really do believe that these additional resources not only needed, but they are the additional resources we need to get the job completed. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kevin, who for longer than I think any of us has been the backbone of this project and making sure we keep everything straight. And with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Peter. I'm Kevin Brake, Senior Project Manager with the Portland Development Commission. So today I'm going to cover for you briefly the outline of the public process that we've taken to date, a status update on the redevelopment agreement, an update on the operating agreement term sheet, as well as the action, the co-action, the legal service agreement second amendment. And then I'll go through for you some next steps. So you've seen this before, but it's important to outline that this project really has been the result of over 2 years of public engagement that really wrapped up or was brought to completion last November. The committee was comprised of over 31 members of the community that applied to be a part of the stakeholder committee with the mayor as the chair. We looked at a number of reuse options for the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. 96 options were submitted by the public. And really the committee and the community landed on the fact that preserving the building as an enhanced spectator facility and respecting the fact that it's been listed on the National Register was an important aspect of assuring that this community asset continues to serve its function within the community. There's been, as the chair noted, over a decade of doubt about what the future of the Coliseum is, and it really, by all accounts, has potentially affected the viability and the revenue streams on the building. We have looked at the opportunity to create an athletics and outdoor gear industry cluster at the Rose Quarter, and the committee has completed a Rose Quarter district plan, which is being submitted to the Central Portland 2035 plan that also had influence on the I-5 reconfiguration at the Rose Quarter. So these are all things that were accomplished that really are informing the Veterans Memorial Coliseum as the first step at the Rose Quarter. And we have heard over the years significant private development interest in the Rose Quarter, but really making this first move with the VMC seems to be the right first step. So the redevelopment agreement, as Peter stated, is an agreement that we hope to send to City Council in September, October this year. It's an agreement that is between the Office of Management and Finance, Portland Arena Management, and the Portland Winterhawks. Pam, Portland Arena Management, has volunteered to do the construction management on the project at no cost. That's a significant contribution to the project. That will be through a sole source that will be considered as part of the City Council action for the redevelopment agreement. The Winterhawks have brought to the table significant private capital, about $10 million, which without this project, or without that funding, this project would be very difficult to complete given the scope of the renovations. The schedule for the RDA approval is constrained because we really have a limited window of opportunity to fully close the facility in any given year. So along those lines, the Winterhawks have expressed, and the entire team has expressed an interest in opening the building in fall 2013 to meet the Winterhawks opening season. Construction, we've actually started some construction within the building for this summer 2012 closure period. In order to have a staging area for later construction, the ice floor needs to be complete. So the ice floor is currently under construction, and there are several other demolition and site prep things that are happening during this closure period. So this diagram is complex, and I realize that, but it's actually complex to tell a story. The redevelopment agreement is the guiding document for the renovation project, and it establishes the roles and relationships of all of the parties. And as you can see from this diagram, it is complex, and one modification of any of these agreements really creates modifications in other agreements. So there's a lot of sort of follow-on change that needs to occur if anything is changed in this structure. The four agreements that are related to the actions before you today are highlighted in red. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about what all of these agreements are. But generally speaking, there is the conditional operating agreement here. And I'll outline for you a little bit later what exactly that means. And the legal services agreement here. The Rose Quarter development rights transfer and the conditional Winterhawks sublicense agreement are related agreements that really fall under the conditional operating agreement. So the Rose Quarter development rights transfer, along with the operating agreement, will come back to you in the fall for consideration. What you're granting here is for PDC Patrick Quinton to negotiate an operating agreement within the terms that are outlined in the term sheet that's part of the resolution that you will be considering today. So upon RDA approval, redevelopment agreement approval, the second amendment to the Portland Arena Management Operating Agreement will go into place. So that is the post-redevelopment agreement operating agreement. The city has requested that Portland Arena Management extend their operating agreement until the end of their second term. So that is until 2023. At this point, Pam has not yet confirmed whether they're willing to do that, but our current operating assumption is that that will occur. The current term sheet does not contemplate taking over the facility until 2023, but it could happen as early as 2018 if Pam chooses not to extend beyond their first 5-year extension. So the current agreement, and I'll just point out here, the financial obligations under the amended agreement that will be going into place after the RDA is that the city is on the hook for $250,000 in capital improvements. Portland Arena Management is obligated to complete up to $250,000 in repair and maintenance on an annual basis. And Portland Arena Management is on the hook for operating losses. This is conceivably a very good deal for the city in that Portland Arena Management is taking the risk of operating the building at a profit. And the current profit sharing scenario is that Portland Arena Management receives 40% of revenues or profit on the building, and the city receives 40% for general purposes and also 20% for the capital improvement account. What has been negotiated under future operating agreement, and I've framed that it's potentially starting in 2023, is that the capital improvements funded by the city will increase to $375,000 per year. The repair and maintenance obligation formerly held by Portland Arena Management converts to a PDC obligation. And the operating losses, the city would cover up to $375,000 per year in operating losses, and PDC would cover operating losses over and above the $375,000 cap. The profit sharing under this PDC city operating agreement would be broken down with PDC receiving 40% of profits, PDC receiving an additional 20% of profits, and that's based on assuming the Portland Winterhawks revenue sharing position that will terminate after 10 years in 2023. The city would also receive 40 additional percent broken into general purposes and capital improvements equally. So one thing to also note is that all of these, the capital improvements and the repair and maintenance, are escalated at the CPI annually. So those are the base amounts that would increase on an annual basis. So as the chair noted, the agreement or the terms for the agreement that have been negotiated are really looking at ways to mitigate risk to PDC and primarily excessive financial risk. And the ways in which this has been done, there's 4 ways. PDC will be held to what is being called a commercially reasonable standard rather than the higher standard that Portland Arena Management is held to as far as management of the facility. So the commercially reasonable is a conceivably lower standard than Portland Arena Management is held to. PDC can terminate the agreement if the Winterhawks cease to use the building.
You know, yep. I'm not sure terminate's really the right term. I think the agreement is that we can close the building, not terminate the agreement.
Okay, right. PDC can operate the building for only Winterhawks games if it's deemed economically viable or reasonable to do so. And PDC, as I stated before, will assume the terms of the Winterhawks revenue sharing agreement after 2023. So that's outlining the first action, which is the operating agreement term sheet. I'll be moving to the second action now.
Let me just point out to another one of the factors is that the Portland Winterhawks currently plays about 10 games in the Rose Quarter, and they have agreed that if we requested it, if we were in that situation, that they would play all of the games in the Memorial Coliseum, which is significant. It's worth several $100,000. Currently, almost all of the playoff games, which would absolutely sell out in the Memorial Coliseum, are played at the Rose Garden. And I'm not sure that it would be necessary to do this, or it would actually be the right thing to do this in 10 years, but nonetheless, it does give us an opportunity to enhance revenue.
Great.
All right. Why would we not just ask for that, just out of curiosity?
We have. I'm sorry, it isn't on the bullet points, but it is within the deal.
Okay, and I talk with you about this, but I'm just thinking about the risk mitigation. That seems like a definite mitigating factor, but it's not written in. It's something we ask for later.
No, it's actually in the agreement that the Winterhawks have signed off on, that they would play in all of the games of the Memorial Coliseum. Obviously, that would not necessarily make the operator of the Rose Quarter happy, but they won't be operating it anymore. So.
So the second part of the action before you today is in a second amendment to the Legal Services Agreement. The Legal Services Agreement is a grant to the City of Portland for the legal costs associated with the Veterans Memorial Coliseum project. The increase is of $235,000, up from a previous not to exceed of $375,000, for a total not to exceed contract of $610,000.
The increase is really driven by changes in the deal structure and the extra time required to negotiate these changes and finalize the documentation on the project. One thing, as Peter mentioned, is that we are pursuing historic tax credits as a second phase of potential investment in the project. If the project successfully receives historic tax credit equity, PDC will be reimbursed up to $130,000 of these legal costs. So the action summary before you today is authorizing the Second Amendment to the Legal Services Agreement for the Veterans Memorial Coliseum to increase the PDC grant to the City of Portland to cover the costs of such legal services by $235,000 for a new grant amount of $610,000, and authorizing negotiation of a Veterans Memorial Coliseum operating agreement and agreement to transfer development rights.
So I have not formally brought forward the second action item, which is the legal services, but I do want to remind you that the historic tax credit piece would provide, it's estimated, an additional $2.6 to maybe at maximum maybe $4 million more to the project beyond the $31.4 million that we currently, $31.5 million that we currently have for it. We expect that will be successful. Actually, this delay has helped that a little bit in terms of being able to get that done. There's no guarantees. If we did get those done, the 130 of this 230 would be returned to us out of the proceeds of that deal. Frankly, that will go a long way towards adding many of the fan-based improvements that we really want to see made to the Memorial Coliseum with the historic tax credits.
And with that, I assume all the parties involved are, if the public looks at it, they'll say, well, why would PDC incur all that cost? And you're saying the benefit is to us.
Benefits to the building, to the project, and again, if successful, it's we have been responsible for all of the legal fees on the city side of this project from the beginning.
So for next steps, we anticipate sending the redevelopment agreement to City Council in September, October this year. We anticipate bringing an architectural engineering phase 2 contract to the point where we can start that at the same time as the redevelopment agreement consideration at City Council. The PDC operating agreement, we anticipate bringing back to you a final agreement negotiated upon the terms that you're considering today in fall, winter this year. And most likely concurrent with that action will be the Rose Quarter development rights transfer agreement that I think ideally would come to the same meeting in the fall, winter 2012 to this board.
Before we hand it over for questions, the one thing that I wanted to bring up is, and there's been some questions with it, this transaction does not increase in any way, shape, or form the risk to the city or to public funds in the year 2018 or 2023. What it really is it's a classic business transaction where risk is being transferred from one party to the other, and the reward is being transferred from one party to the other. OMF was much more interested in making sure that they only had a loss of a maximum of $375,000 a year and was willing to give all of the upside for that to happen. I've looked at the numbers very carefully. I've looked at the events. Frankly, I think that there's a good possibility that this could provide a seven-figure return to PDC at the time that we're responsible for it. And I'm comfortable with it because I believe that the risk mitigation in terms of being able to do what nobody will want to do in 2023 would minimize the potential losses. And frankly, at the end of the day, at least in my industry, I don't know about yours, but it's pretty rare that somebody actually exercises an option. What it really does is it sets the framework for a negotiation And that negotiation has the opportunity to take the circumstances of the time into consideration. But my guess is all of these parties will be sitting down in 2021 and discussing what has happened and what may happen and what can happen. In addition, if we take this on, we are going to become an active partner in the management of the Coliseum. We will have the ability to reasonably approve any contracts that are signed. We will have the ability to review financial statements and be a part of the process of setting budgets and understanding, so that at the point where PDC could become responsible for it, there is full knowledge of the operation and the pluses and the minuses.
One along those lines, sorry, I forgot to mention, we anticipate bringing back to the board a study that really looks at the revenue opportunities going into the future, risks, market segment, things that we've done a lot of due diligence about the building and its position in the market, but we intend to bring back to you a study that will give you more context about the opportunities moving forward.
Peter, have I missed anything? Do you want to make?
No, I think we've brought the highlights to you. The number of points that have already been negotiated in the term sheet are substantial, and I think what we've tried to do is outline what our business opportunities are and where we've been able to encapsulate our risk as well. So I think those are the major points. And to Kevin's point, we've done these kinds of studies before. I think this will bring a finer point to the studies that we've done in the past. Those studies are up on the Rose Quarter development.org website, and we're going to take that work and move it that much further, given the role that we're signing up to play going forward.
Okay, so and Patrick corrected me. I didn't realize that it did get put into the term sheet that we can terminate the operating agreement if the Winterhawks did not renew their lease. So the slide was correct. I was incorrect. Just only once in my whole life.
Vindicated. Huh?
Vindicated. Okay. Charles, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, a long-term negotiation, I think the key is the city and the public have made it clear that we're committed to keeping Veterans Memorial Coliseum. So we decided a long time ago that if we're going to keep the Coliseum, we need to invest in it at a sufficient level to make it a viable asset. And we've worked with the partners, Pam and the Winterhawks in the area, and we've had a lot of smart people at the table negotiating from their perspective, and this is where we are. And I think it's a very creative approach to address the problem. Of course, our consideration is the risk that it exposes the city to and PDC to. And I think that's been highlighted in the numbers as far as our potential for loss. And I know those are only estimates, but at least it gives us a frame. And I know Chair Andrews has been intimately involved for a long time and have a high level of trust in his consideration of what he thinks the future might look like, understanding there are no guarantees. So as we sit here, it does boil down to the risk, and I think we have all the information we can have right now regarding what that risk is. So I asked a question already about legal. I think the public wants to know why, when you're in a negotiation like this and you have three parties, it looks like the public is picking up the legal. And I think you answered that already. But anything else you might want to add, I think that would be worth expressing.
Well, I think we're picking up the legal for the city side of it. Mm-hmm. We're not picking up the legal for the Winterhawks.
So they're incurring their own, and that's what I just wanted to emphasize. They are incurring their own costs in dealing with this negotiation, so we don't want the public to think that that's the total for the consideration of that issue, and I think it's very important that people know that. As far as taking over operations, I think Chair Andrews already stated it. It's down the road, and it would occur with an outside provider, meaning there would be a third-party management company that would operate the facility. We don't want the public thinking that all of a sudden we're going to become operators of facilities like this. So I think that's been made clear, and I see you nodding. So that's everyone's expectation if we go down that route. I don't have any real questions. I just wanted to make some clarifying statements, but I think we have committed to investing in Memorial Coliseum, and the risk has been contemplated. We're going to have to see some forecast before we get to the final day of signing all the documents that are going to need to be signed, and I don't know what we might expect or timing-wise in that regard.
What we've been talking about is there are actually 2 consultants studies done of the operation of Memorial Coliseum in a comparison to similar facilities around the United States, a company who thoroughly understands this. And we think, without breaking the bank, that with the operating information that we currently have and the Winterhawks projections, that we could hire a consultant to take a look at that and give us probably a range, much like I do when I'm working on a project. You put in some assumptions and look at best case, worst case type of an analysis, and that's what I would be expecting that we would be able to present.
Okay, I don't have any specific questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Strauss?
Well, first, Chair Andrews, thanks for your tireless hours working on this agreement. It's just been an enormous amount of time on your part, and I very much appreciate it. So we're doubling your salary next week, obviously. But just a couple of questions. Why did we have these last-minute negotiations? It just seems like, we had an agreement, everything came to the table, and then right at the last second here, they just threw in another obstacle that we have to jump over. Well, why wasn't this addressed months and months ago?
I think that's a difficult question to answer, Commissioner Strauss. As the chair mentioned, there has been, we have a number of parties. They are expressing their interest around a table with some 20 people. And I think the communication, given the stakes, were very, very, very high, and the clarity at which people were communicating and listening really comes to fruition when you get down to the short strokes of completing the deal, and when it became clear that all parties were not fully considering the elements that were being put in front of us, that when we were within weeks of trying to get the redevelopment agreement to City Council, then each of the parties, Portland Winterhawks in this particular situation, said, no, you need to understand we don't have what we need in order to put a $10 million investment into this public building. And so I think that that clarity came to fruition at the point where everybody realized how quickly this was starting to move towards City Council. I think that's the best way we can answer it at this point.
Now, also, I understand that we're not actually agreeing to this proposal here. That we're just given the opportunity for Executive Director Quinton to begin further negotiations, and those negotiations could be walking away from the table and not moving forward at all. Is that correct?
I'd say, yes, that's correct. One of the kind of controversies at the end of putting this together was we actually signed what was called a binding term sheet. And I think what was meant to be, quote, binding were the financial pieces of it that you saw up here. But if you look at the term sheet, there are a lot of contingencies to it. So as we took it to the board, we wanted to make sure that you recognize that it's not binding. But I would fully expect that the agreement in terms of revenue sharing, operating loss, those sorts of things, I don't see changing. But it's a complex document in terms of the operating agreement, so there's certainly...
It's an extremely complex document. I had to read it multiple times to try to understand what it is. And the only economic development this seems to be generating is keeping lawyers busy. $610,000 we're spending on legal fees. This just tells you how protracted these negotiations are, how we just don't have a handshake agreement or general consensus about the vision of this. And I think we just maybe need to go back to the table and look for other people. I know the film industry is very interested in this building. We turn them away. We love the Winterhawks. We appreciate their winter season. We appreciate their investment. But this has just gone too far, and I just think that this is where Executive Director Quinton needs to earn his pay and negotiate in the best interest of the city and the best interest of the PDC. So that's all I have to say, but I look forward to this coming back to our commission. Thank you.
Can I ask one follow-on question? With this change and the potential for PDC taking over operation, what might the community expect as far as the use of the facility, and how are we factoring that into, or can we factor that into the operating cost and the related bottom line results? Because if I'm the community and I see this type of a change and a potential, I'm going to want to have access to that asset a little differently. It's going to be operated by basically PDC, a public entity, and it's owned by the city. So I think that's something we really need to take into consideration when we're looking at potential performance for the facility.
Well, again, I don't think anything changes in terms of the potential operation by this action. It makes clear that there are some situations in which, in order to mitigate the risk, that the access would not be there. But again, I fully expect that at that point in time, the city owns the facility. There would be talks between the city and the city council at the time about what they wanted and what they were willing to bring to the table in order to make that happen. But this agreement does not change, in my mind, what the future uses will be. We fully expect, there's 400,000 people a year that have visited in its current condition, and I'd love to have you guys take a tour of it. You cannot believe how tired it really is. And I know that
I've been through it, and I appreciate that. But I've got to tell you, when there's not a game there, that's a wasteland out there. It's just not being used in such a way that's conducive to energizing that part of the city. That's an important part of the city that needs to be respected and needs to be energized. We went down with the mayor's group of the PDC, visited with LA Live, we met with AEG. What they told us, it's a full-time job having somebody to energize LA Live. We're talking LA Live. This is a major area of our city, a center of our city. We need to energize that area. We need part of this agreement to be a commitment to who's going to be responsible for energizing this area. This can't be just a wasteland between games.
And I would point out that as part of this, the city, part of the agreement provides that PDC will get the development rights that once belonged to the Blazers, and they walked away from them. They didn't exercise their option for them the last time. And so at the end of the day, we will have both the responsibility and the opportunity to do that development. John?
Extraordinarily complex deal, and I'm not a big fan of last-minute complications either, but I think it's just part of the world that we live in, and I think we've invested a lot of time and effort into this, and Chair Andrews, you certainly have spent a tremendous amount of time in this, and I think we just need to keep pushing it forward and providing certainty in that area, and hopefully this will help catalyze the development and activity and traffic that Commissioner Strauss is talking about. So I'm in favor of continuing to move forward.
Okay, thank you. So we'll split the two resolutions into two votes. I would look for a motion to approve Resolution 6959, authorizing negotiation of a Veterans Memorial Coliseum operating agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 All right, and we can move right to Resolution 6960, authorizing Second Amendment to Legal Services Agreement for the Veterans Memorial Coliseum to increase the grant to the City of Portland to cover costs of such legal services by $235,000 for a new grand total of $610,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Don't come back to the table again.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thanks, guys. This is hard work.
Yep.
I mean, it's really
Thanks for the
hard
effort.
work.
Yeah, thanks very much, Scott.
John, you're excused.
Yeah, I'm going to sign off. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and then we will get to the last item, informational item, which is item is an information item, Economic Development Strategy 3-year status report. Kimberly, Lou, John, Jennifer, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Chair Andrews, Commissioner Strauss, Executive Director Quinton. I'm Kimberly Branham, Deputy Director of Strategy and Operations, and as you mentioned, I'm joined by Jennifer Nolfi, John Jackley, and Lou Bowers. 3 years ago, this commission recommended the adoption of the first economic development strategy in 15 years, which recognized that Portland's lauded quality of life had not translated into widespread economic prosperity and job growth. The strategy directed investment in business development, job creation, and issued a collective challenge to create 10,000 new jobs by 2014. Thanks to your guidance and support over the past 3 years, PDC has delivered on this clear mandate. With our public and private partners, we've implemented a nationally recognized plan to nurture local business success, build on our competitive advantages, and address those areas that need the most attention. And as we'll show you, we've met our collective challenge. So this morning, I'm going to provide a high-level overview of some of the impact of our work over the last 3 years, and then Jennifer, Lou, and John will give a little bit more detail about some of the accomplishments in the past year. In the process, there are 3 major themes that you'll hear. The first is that this strategy has really been a living document. In the past year, there are 4 major new initiatives that have added depth to the strategic framework. You're familiar with these. It's the Neighborhood Economic Development Strategy, our Entrepreneurship Action Plan, the creation of the Education Urban Renewal Area, and the Metro Export Plan. The second theme is collaboration. We've done this closely with businesses, with industry, and with the community. I'd like to acknowledge all of the PDC staff who've been engaged in this work. In fact, it's really been an agency-wide initiative, so there are too many people to thank. But I'd also like to acknowledge our partners in the implementation of this work. Greater Portland, Inc., Business Oregon, PSU, OHSU, PBA, Coalition of Communities of Color, Work Systems, Venture Portland, and a host of others. But most importantly, you'll hear that the strategy is producing results. In the past 3 years, just looking at investments, we've assisted over 520 businesses, provided direct financial assistance of roughly $74 million, and leveraged that investment 10 to 1. If you look at the $74 million, a lot of that has come through E-Zone and a renewed activity in that, more than $28 million of tax abatements. As well, has leveraged $479 million in private investment, and CPRL loans, community property redevelopment loans of $28 million has also had significant leverage. These investments have led to significant direct job creation. Over 2,700 new jobs have been created and over 1,400 jobs have been retained. In addition to this, we estimate that about 4,700 construction jobs have been realized as well. As you can see, assistance to existing companies led to much of the job growth, but recruitment of 19 new firms had significant impact as well. At the same time, we've committed substantial resources to support job growth through our target cluster firms and local small businesses. And finally, in the past 3 years, employment in Multnomah County has exceeded our goal, and employment has grown by 16,000 jobs. Yet with nearly 30,000 people still out of work, even more importantly, we're seeing a substantial decline in unemployment rates. In fact, for the last 6 quarters, we're now below the national average. Brookings recently rated Portland as one of the top 20 metros in the country for recovery, ranking as 17th best overall, with Portland at 13th best for unemployment and 14th best for gross regional product growth. So we're optimistic that these positive trends are going to continue. So before I turn it over to Jennifer, I would just like to recognize the staff who helped put this report together. The report's in your folders and will be available online. Lisa Norwood and Ann Mangan helped with the design and the document, which I would say is really a beautiful document. And Randy Evans and Chris Harder project managed the report and did a lot of the data analysis, so thanks to them.
Good morning, Chair Andrews, Commissioner Strauss, and Executive Director Quinton. Today I'm going to focus on the competitive section of the strategy. As you know, there are three primary components of this with a focus on the clusters, entrepreneurship and innovation, and really our export strategy. The primary job objective is job growth and driving innovation throughout the region, and we do that through two primary mechanisms. One is through business development, which is about helping Portland area businesses access the resources they need to start, grow, and expand, as well as to recruit new companies to Portland, which I know is a priority for Commissioner Strauss. In addition, we're driving cross-cutting initiatives to really further Portland's competitive through our industry work. And I'm going to take time to just briefly highlight on each of those initiatives. As you will hear throughout the presentation, industry leadership and collaboration is absolutely critical to our success. Software is the first area I'm going to start with. This industry represents more than 2,000 firms that pay high wages of $90,000 approximately. This industry is expected to grow 25% over the next decade, and we will continue to see growth. Key initiatives in this area include continued support of the Portland Seed Fund, which has supported 17 firms, $14 million of investment, and created 75 new jobs. Techlandia, which is about helping our startup businesses and emerging companies access resources, including talent, mentors, and other resources to help them scale, similar to the PDX 100 initiative that Patrick mentioned earlier. We feel that we will continue to focus on supporting these firms through initiatives like PDX 100, which is really helping companies scale through access to these resources. And the Techlandia website, I should mention, was done in collaboration with the Technology Association of Oregon, formerly known as the Software Association. The next section is advanced manufacturing. This is our largest cluster, accounting for 26% of our GMP, third highest in the country. The priorities for this industry include workforce development, lean efficiencies in manufacturing, and driving alignment with our clean tech strategy. We continue to collaborate with Work Systems and Oregon Manufacturing in partnership to advance these objectives. Highlights from this past year include launching the Portland Harbor Initiative, which is really encouraging cleanup along the Willamette River. And as a result of that outreach, we've identified 6 promising opportunities that we continue to explore. And we've seen an increased activity with our E-Zone, receiving 4 new applications this year, representing 500 jobs and about $390 million in new investment just in this year alone. With clean technology, Portland continues to be a leader. Oregon's Clean Energy Report recently ranked Oregon as second, and obviously we are the home to major headquarters of wind and solar companies and market leaders in green development. Since the strategy was announced in 2009, we continue to refine our emphasis within the strategy and are really focusing on green development, clean energy, and energy management and storage. Accomplishments this year, I want to highlight the $2.1 million Jobs and Innovation Accelerator Challenge Grant, which is really focusing on supply chain and driving alignment with our clean tech and advanced manufacturing around commercialization, research and development, and other opportunities. And we launched the We Build Green Cities campaign and website, which are really about promoting our expertise and leadership and creating business development opportunities for Portland firms. For athletic and outdoor, we continue to be a leader in this space as well, with companies starting, expanding, and moving here. We recently were recognized by the Outdoor Industry Association for our support of the OIA Eco Index, which is an industry-facing metric for what it means to be sustainable, and we're going to further drive alignment with our clean tech strategy to be engaged in that project. The peer-to-peer program is one of our greatest successes, where we're bringing small and medium-sized athletic and outdoor firms together to get mentoring and support and help them get to the next level. And the Inspired by Portland is really about promoting our leadership in this industry sector. The final area I'm going to touch on is international trade. Portland has a strong history of trade, and our position on the Pacific Rim obviously contributed to that. As you know, we worked with Greater Portland and our regional partners to launch the Greater Portland Export Plan, and will continue to drive implementation of that strategy. We hosted International Trade Week and organized trade missions to a number of countries with the objective of promoting business development opportunities for Portland area firms and also recruiting firms that have an interest in Portland. Entrepreneurship and innovation strategy is really focusing on building our strength as an entrepreneurial hub. I think with recent successes like Urban Airship, Shop Igniter, and others, we continue to see more activity and get increased visibility for our entrepreneurial efforts. In this area, we announced Produce Row in the Central East Side District, which is about creating a district and tools to support entrepreneurial activity. The seed fund that we mentioned earlier is another critical part of this. And then looking at opportunities to partner with higher ed around commercialization grants is another opportunity. As a result, I think of our efforts, we're seeing an increased investment in Portland area companies, as you can see from the graph. Finally, I want to touch on briefly, what are you going to be seeing from us in the next year? We're going to continue to drive more leadership and ownership of our industry clusters because that's where we've had the greatest success. We're going to be focusing on business development efforts, proactive outreach with a goal in generating transactions and increasing our loan volume and deal flow. We're going to continue driving implementation of the export plan with a focus on our target industry clusters. And obviously, ongoing collaboration with local, regional, and state partners to leverage resources. Finally, with our entrepreneurship activities and working with neighborhood and Central City to drive more alignment throughout the Urban Development Department division. So with that, I will turn it over to Lou to focus on Central City.
Good morning. Lou Bowers, manager of your Central City division. As an introduction to the specific accomplishments in this area, I wanted to list 4 themes that have sort of been evolving our work this year. The first is an increased focus on driving urban innovation. Second has been that we're really concentrating on utilizing our real estate and project management, particularly the public-private partnership, implementation skills. Our job is to implement and get projects and programs done. Third, we've been increasingly focusing on strategy over geography. You've seen that for the last several years, and you're going to continue to see that evolution as we blur the geographic distinctions and focus on the strategy and skill base. Last is we are taking part in the PDC-wide effort to seek new revenue sources for PDC. So we think that our real estate skills and our project management hold promise for potential new revenue, and that is interwoven in our efforts this year. So on to specific accomplishments. First area is next generation built environment. And here we are continuing to work on the OSC. We have recast it as a smaller triple net zero building with stronger private sector participation. We're also working on renaming it to reflect this new concept that has emerged. The June Key Delta Community Center is a great example of a living building in the neighborhood and a great example of how we are continuing to span the geography. This is a living building. It's in the neighborhood. That's great. That doesn't make any difference where the innovation takes place. We want to link it together and make it happen. Eco-districts continue to evolve, with Lloyd being our sort of poster child for eco-district development. Lloyd has succeeded in raising $90,000 in private matching funds this year. PDC has $70,000 for pilot project implementation within that district that we've been working on. They are working on they're working on participating in the district energy, which they're very excited about, and also commercial energy efficient retrofit within Lloyd. I do want to note the American Asset Trust announcement for their super block, that 700 unit apartment project, 4 separate buildings, $250 million private investment. They are going to utilize district energy, currently planning on green roofs, and also state-of-the-art gray and black water systems. So very much consistent with the eco-district concept, as well as being the largest private sector development in the city in a decade, certainly in the recent past. Other 2 eco-districts are continuing to evolve. South of Market is doing some feasibility study on a multi-utility system, and the neighborhood districts are more in the organizing and seeking the earlier pilot project stages. We did the Electric Avenue with PGE. That was very successful. We also, I want you to note on the LEED certification that of the total certified buildings, more than 75% were in gold and platinum. So within the LEED continuum, we are pushing the upper end of the spectrum, which is where we feel that we need to be. Urban vitality. Here, we have been working on the Central City as the regional asset for job creation, innovation, and creativity. You've heard this theme before. You've heard the theme about the changing demographic of the Central City as more creative young people with more assets want to live in the Central City, and then the concomitant migration of people with less resources moving to the suburbs. There's actually a new book out by Alan Earhart called The Great Inversion and the Future of American Cities. So this is obviously a national, if not international, phenomena, and we are considered to be on the cutting edge in terms of positive examples of how to facilitate this evolution of the city. One example, downtown retail. We've continued to make progress there with several new major retailers in the Central City. Burnside Bridgehead, we have worked on that. You're going to be seeing that very, very soon in terms of the Convention Plaza building. Oregon College of Oriental Medicine has finally opened down there. I think many of you were at that opening, and that'll be a major asset to revitalization of Old Town Chinatown. And then the streetcar, a $147 million project, of which $23 million is TIF. That construction is complete, and they'll be having their grand opening early in the fall. Last but not least, we continue to work on the VMC, which you just had a long discussion of, and hope to be bringing that to fruition in this fiscal year within a month, we hope. The Portland brand. Our brand, how to grow the economy, clean the environment, and create vibrant places to work, live, and play. I think we can acknowledge we've been pretty successful at that. Here are a few examples of the kind of recognition that we've received for that brand. We also wanted to touch on the film and video. We have issued 667 permits for film and video operations in the city, and that's generated over $130 million in production revenue. So that's the economic development aspect. We have 3 TV shows that are now currently located in Portland. 2 years ago, we had none. So we think that, again, is an important part of the brand. Finally, higher education. The key accomplishment here has been the creation of the new education URA. 92 acres, $169 million for project revenues starting with the revenue should start in about 12 to 16 months. This is the first URA that's really been created from the ground up with an economic development focus, so it does look a little differently. It talks about commercialization of research and technology. It talks about urban innovation in the eco-district located here. It talks about entrepreneurship, cluster development, and it also has an affordable housing component, of course. In addition, we've assisted with the Collaborative Life Sciences Center in South Waterfront, and there's been an expansion of the PSU wet labs. In terms of where we go next here, you're going to see continuation of these same projects in most cases. Next generation built environment, we want to get OSC under construction. We want to get VMC under construction. We hope to have 2 experiments for district energy, one in Lloyd, one in South Waterfront. They may be using different technologies, but learn how the business models. We do want to start a new program in new commercial energy efficient retrofit and see what we can do to really push deeper retrofits and wider retrofits on smaller buildings. And then finally, we want to continue to expand working outside the central city. Urban vitality, we're very optimistic that there'll be development on the Zidell strategic site. Centennial Mills, we will select a developer and get into serious due diligence there, and we hope to make progress on the U.S. Post Office in terms of consolidating our relationship with that organization and that land. In terms of the brand, we think we're on the right path. We want to keep doing what we're doing right, and our goal is to get 3 more TV shows located here. I just made that up, actually, but I think it's a good goal. In terms of higher education, we will put together a project plan for the first year of the URA and work with PSU and OHSU on clarifying specific projects. We'll also put in place the public involvement mechanism as per the students that you heard from PSU. They're interested in being involved in that. That's where we're going for the next year, and now I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you very much, Lou. Commissioners, I'm John Jackley, the Neighborhood Division Manager. A key component of our economic development strategy overall for the city has been the Neighborhood Economic Development Strategy, which was adopted just over a year ago by you and the Portland City Council. This strategy empowers and supports community-driven economic development at the neighborhood level, and it's got a core set of equity principles. Communities of color, lower income populations, and traditionally underserved areas such as North and Northeast and East Portland. In this first year, we've established the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative districts, completed the revitalization of downtown Quinton, and you just recently authorized a similar project in Lentz Town Center. We've met all the program goals for the Portland Main Street program, and we're also helping Hacienda CDC establish a Latino Mercado in Lentz. We have a strong, driven focus. A strong, driven focus on assisting small businesses. Through our community partners, we've supported more than 136 small businesses with technical assistance. We've assisted 376 micro enterprises, and we've done more than $1 million in storefront grants in Interstate and Lentz. With Craft 3, we've established, Craft 3 is a community nonprofit bank, and we've established a lending partnership whereby they're creating with us a $1.5 million small business loan program, principally working capital, that will focus on the NPI districts, East Portland, and outer Northeast. This is a great opportunity for us to leverage our funds. We're helping with the program administration and some costs, and Craft 3 will be doing the lending side of it. And also our Green Features grant, make businesses more sustainable. We've done solar installations, we've done insulation, we've done a number of grants that help businesses become more competitive and be more sustainable at the same time. We've also made significant investments in community capacity, and this is a new element of the strategy, something that PDC is helping pioneer, not just in Portland, but around the country. Our Neighborhood Economic Development Leadership Group is led by Commissioner Dixon. We have experts and activists and people from all over the city that provide input, recommendations, direction, and insight for our neighborhood economic development programs. We've done over 400 hours technical assistance for small businesses through Venture Portland, and through the EOI program, we've helped more than 2,000 adults and young people with job training. We also had a record year with MWESB contracting. We hit 39% MWESB, and we always get the question, so I'll tell you, minority contracting was the number one in that. Our apprenticeship hours, we exceeded our goal at 21%, and our apprenticeship diversity, women and people of color, top 26%. In the upcoming year, and be happy to answer any questions you might have, we've got a couple of pretty intense priorities. Number one is to significantly increase deal flow and transactions for PDC. We've established in the neighborhood division a business development team. This is the feet on the street team. We've gotten a running start. We have identified our priority commercial corridors on an equity basis, and the team is already starting to talk to businesses. Literally, they will be spending most of their time out of the office going up and down these corridors. We work through partner associations such as the East Portland Action Plan Committee, the Minority Chambers of Commerce, but our emphasis is on direct connection between PDC and small businesses. Our team, in essence, reps not just the PDC loan products, but they are in a position to refer people to the Small Business Administration, to the Craft 3 loan program, to other private sector lending partners as well. So this is an innovative concept, and we expect it to significantly increase the transaction flow for PDC. For the Neighborhood Prosperity Initiative districts, we're going to establish 6 grant agreements, have 6 executive directors hired, and complete 6 seed projects in each district. And then finally, in the next couple of months, we're going to bring a comprehensive equity policy rethink to you, one that takes the construction policy that you're familiar with and then adds, at Executive Director Quinton's direction, an internal piece and ways to kind of imbue equity in everything that we do and not just have it be a standalone piece. So rather have 3 or 4 pieces, we'll have a comprehensive internal-external partnership equity policy for you all to continue. Those are the highlights, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Terrific report. We do have one person that signed up for public testimony, and why don't we do that, and then we'll call you guys back up to answer any questions. Could you do me a favor, because we're televised, we need to have you come up, and also I need to ask, as we did everyone else today, that you to hold your testimony to 3 minutes, please.
Okay, that'll be quick.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Should I introduce myself? I'm Evelyn Murray, like I said before, and I work for No Limit Stickers, which is a graphic design company that's located at 1703 Northeast Alberta. That family has owned that building for 40 years, so they're one of the families that when I got back from Florida saw that it was like a whole new city. Johnny and Lenny's wasn't there. I wanted to go over there and get me some crackling skins because you can't find them here in Portland. And so I went over there and I saw one other black person other than myself and my daughter. We were stared at like we were strangers venturing into, like Black South Africa, white Northeast Portland. And I said, oh my God, what happened? And then I noticed that they had all these houses with these little businesses downstairs. I said, this is so cute. They should have done this a long time ago. But what I noticed was the zoning change since the gentrification. The whites that came into the area were giving precedent to take it, live upstairs in a house, have a business downstairs. When blacks were in that area, that was not allowed. I thought it was like, I said, what is going on? And these are words that I wrote down when I heard you guys were saying about the next generation, getting ready to empower the next generation. From what I've seen with the naked eye, without beautiful cameoed reports, is that does not include the African American community. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket science, Phi Beta Kappa, to see that this does not include the African American community. I'm doing some work out in East County, Gresham, that is Multnomah County, right? So gentrification, all the blacks are out there just about it. They left majority, a large block in North Portland. So I met with the Urban League out there, and I went and did a door-to-door. There are no services. The services are still over here for low-income people, services that meet the need for low-income white and black, but those blacks that are out in East County, they have to come all the way in here to get services. And so whatever they're planning does not include those blocks that were gentrified out of the community. It's almost like with Chief Joseph, when the whites were moving in to occupy, the settlers came in, they moved the blacks and the few runaway slaves and blacks that were there, and then Native Americans told them to move, and they gave up the land. Well, it's a little different now. Am I getting there? I got 7 seconds. So I heard all this wonderful stuff, urban vitality, future American cities, the cutting edge. What are you guys doing? Cutting blacks and low-income workers out once again? That's the history of Oregon. And you know what happens, it's doomed to repeat itself. So that's what we're doing. And I just got a problem. I'm glad I came late, because then I would have had to absorb all the other stuff that came before. But when I sat here and I heard these words, SBA lost 3 computers, yet the last young man that spoke said, oh, and they can go to the SBA. Yeah, I can go to the SBA, but I got to wait because they only had 5 computers. Now they only got 3 because they've been cut. So where is the vitalization in that? Come on, that's the naked eye speaking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff? There's 2 of the 5 of us are 2 of the 5 commissioners are African American.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Okay. First of all, thanks for the report. I always appreciate the update in terms of the work that we're doing. The economic development strategy, I wasn't a part of forming it. It was passed by City Council shortly after I came on the commission, and it has had an awful lot to do with our restructuring here at PDC to align with it. I can tell you that in my travels with Patrick to Washington, D.C., and doing some best practices tours, this strategy is being seen around the United States as being very successful, and other regions are beginning to take a look at it because they see a strategy around traded sector jobs and regional competitive industries has real strength, and it works really well. I'm also very proud of the work that our neighborhood division and John Jackley has done, in particular with focusing on the issues of that were just brought up by our speaker. And although there's a long way to go, personally, I'm kind of proud that we have led the way in terms of MWESB participation. It is far, I mean, we have raised the bar so high for both the city and the state organizations, and that's a really good thing. And we're looking forward to those goals to be raised in the other areas, as you've suggested. Our last development agreements have had hiring requirements in them that didn't exist before. We're doing a much better job of thinking about this on an overall basis. I've always been, one of the things I've enjoyed so much about Patrick is that he's very blunt. And he has stated publicly that our economic development efforts in the past did not pay enough attention to the gentrification issue. We all took a look at what was going to happen within the district and not some of the effects, and that not just PDC, but government and people in general need to recognize the effects of these kind of programs and look to the next step to be able to get it done. So I don't have any questions. I'm really proud of you guys getting your arms around each one of the aspects, each one of these programs, and I think we're on the right track. I really do. I know it's not easy work, and when you combine, we had a speaker here a couple of months ago who talked about when you combine the triple school of economic development, social equity, and sustainability, it isn't an easy task, but the end result is going to turn out to be a better world for everybody. And I appreciate your work on that, on behalf of PDC for that. Steve?
Well, thanks for your efforts. I'm all in on economic development. And while I appreciate the fact that it's nice to take some time to celebrate the successes we've had, I think that there's more work to be done. I think there are a lot of people that are still really struggling and that don't have jobs, and a number of people that are underemployed, and things are really tough out there for a number of people. And so now's the time for us to double down. Now that we're having some positive effects and that the market is turning our way, we need to have a stronger and more renewed effort. So I want to see a vision from the PDC about what we're going to do over the next 5 years, because we still have a long way to achieve those 10,000 jobs that we promised. To that effect, I got a couple comments and recommendations. First off, let's make sure that the vision for what the PDC is doing about bringing economic development is clear to everybody. I think what you're doing is certainly on that path, but I'm looking for Executive Director Quinton to make sure that the vision is clearly presented. Second, I think we need a stronger and closer relationship with the state of Oregon. You talked about the people that participated in this and put this together. I think we've got good relationships with the state of Oregon. I think we need to strengthen those relationships. I'd like to see us meet with them as a minimum, if once a week. Ideally, we should have somebody in their office. They should have somebody in our offices. Portland is the economic driver of the state of Oregon. We need to work together seamlessly at every aspect. I'd also like us to have an effort, and I think this is part of Executive Director Quinton's responsibility, is to go out and thank those businesses that are creating the jobs in the community. We talk a lot about the small entrepreneurial jobs that have been created. We need to thank them. But there are a number of very large employers that have actually helped generate new jobs and those new businesses. We need to go out and thank Intel and Nike and Oregon Health Sciences and Standard Insurance and Portland State University and many, many others. Many of these small entrepreneurial companies were because Nike was here and we have all these small spin-off apparel companies. There are many small entrepreneurial companies that are serving Intel. So I think it's our duty to go thank those businesses for being here, show our appreciation, and find out what the PDC and the city can do for them. So often people are going out with their hand out, asking them for contributions, asking them to help in our efforts here. We need to go find out what their issues are. Do they have any roadblocks that we can help clear? I'm very appreciative of your efforts of making the city of Portland the most sustainable green city in the United States. You saw those 3 young people here from Portland State University. You heard what they talked about in terms of sustainability and where they're going to be in 20, 30 years. I think you're on the right track. You've got to drive harder, though. I love everything that you're doing. You're going to have to put more effort forward. It's becoming very competitive for jobs. Thanks for your efforts.
Patrick, anything for the cause today?
Well, I would first just like to echo Chair Andrews and Commissioner Strauss's comments, just an appreciation for your work. Obviously, this is a team effort, and a lot of staff work has gone into this, and obviously, the real work is what they talked about, working directly with businesses, with local organizations, but there's also to undertake the kind of strategic and cultural change that we've undertaken over the past 3 years is significant as well, and everybody in the agency has had to go through that, so I truly do appreciate it, and I think the results do speak for themselves. Commissioner Strauss and I did talk about this prior to today, and I know that you would like to see a vision, and we will deliver that. I just want to say I share your sense of urgency and your ambition for what we should be doing. So we don't in any way think that our work is done or just want to pat ourselves on the back for where we're at right now. I think, as Chair Andrews said, I think we're getting traction, there's momentum, and so we want to be able to make sure that everybody understands this is a thoughtful strategy that we continue to refine, and we want to keep working on it. We want to keep prioritizing our resources in this direction, and so that's that's the purpose of talking about where we're at. But I agree, we need to continue to work hard, and we need to continue to have a vision that tells everybody in the community where we're going, so everybody can rally around that. So, and I appreciate the board's support. Obviously, all this happens because you guys have supported our work and been consistent in your support of this strategy, as has the City Council. So appreciate your support as well. So thanks.
And please don't take the missing commissioners today as thinking that this wasn't important. Commissioner Dixon had a family matter, and Charles had a presentation that he had to make to his bosses from Chicago, so he had to move on, and of course John's on vacation. But I'm going to encourage them, hopefully, to make sure that if they have any questions or any would like to get together with you to go through this document, that they get updated as well. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
With that, there are no other items on the agenda. We're adjourned. Thank you.